We're talking all sorts of sports, break it down in the lounge of course, whether it goes down on the pitch or in the park or on the diamond or on the courts. We're talking all sorts of sports, break it down in the lounge of course, whether it goes down on the pitch or in the park or on the diamond or in the courts. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge, it's the Oddcast Sports Lounge, it's the Oddcast Sports Lounge, it's the Oddcast Sports Lounge.
Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur. Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur. Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur. And the Spurs go marching on. Hey! Tottenham is the greatest team the world has ever seen. Oh, Tottenham is the greatest team the world has ever seen. Oh, Tottenham is the greatest team the world has ever seen. And the Spurs go marching on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Oddcast UEFA Champions League Breakdown. This is the Tottenham Hotspur edition. We're going to be talking all things Tottenham. So, we're going to be talking, first of all, we're going to give you a quick overview on their EPL season, right? So that's the English Premier League season. The reason we are going to do that is because they're playing another Premier League team in the final. As you know, they are playing Liverpool at the Wanda Metropolitano Stadium in Madrid, June 1st, Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's noon Pacific Standard Time, and they're playing Liverpool FC. All right, so we're going to be telling you what happened in the English Premier League season. Then we're going to go through their UEFA Champions League run, group stage, knockout stage, and then we're going to be talking injuries. Injuries are, fairly significant on both sides. The Tottenham stuff is a bit murky, to say the least. So we're going to be breaking down injuries. Then, right after that, we're going to talk about formations and tactics, right? So we have, a bunch of write-ups here of potential formations that they're going to use, that we think they're going to use, and then we're going to give you our prediction of how they're actually going to play, right? So, then we're going to give you some pros and cons of how we feel about Tottenham. And then finally, the elephant in the room, the psychic Mykich predictions. And, there you go. So stay with us. We hope you enjoy. This is your Tottenham Hotspur Champions League 2019 final breakdown.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
All right. So, English Premier League, we're going to go through there first. Now, Tottenham had a very interesting English Premier League season. They finished in 4th place on 71 points behind Chelsea, Liverpool, and of course Man City taking the title. Now, we have to say that, if we want to give a summary, we have to give the high and the low point. Now, the high point is that they finished 4th, qualifying for the Champions League next year, especially now that Arsenal lost to Chelsea in the Europa final. So that being said, if Arsenal had won the Europa League final, they would have actually qualified for Champions League, and then Tottenham would have had to go through a playoff in order to qualify for the group stages. And because they finished 4th, so Arsenal would have knocked them out and gotten the automatic qualifier. But Arsenal didn't, and they won't be playing Champions League football next year. But I digress. So the thing about, the fact that I say that the high point was finishing 4th is probably due in part to the fact that they didn't sign anyone in the offseason. Now, I really think they have a solid team. They also had a bunch of injuries this season. And what we also have to remember is, even though Son Heung-min didn't score till November, or had a great season, he didn't score till November, which was pretty surprising given the South Koreans' absolute pedigree. He is a pure maestro. But they qualified for Champions League. The thing is, in their last 12 games, they only won, I believe, 3 times. They drew twice, and that means they lost 7. So that's the last 12 games, and that kind of shows the injuries building up. That shows the lack of signings and lack of squad depth kind of building up, right? The thing is, you have to say that Mauricio Pochettino, the Argentinian mastermind behind Tottenham, has done a really great job with the club, and I have to give him all the credit in the world. I believe he is owed better from Chairman Levy. For them next season in the Premier League, it's going to be a question of can they sign some players in the offseason to build that squad depth to go along with the great players they already have. Harry Kane was great this season. Dele Alli was a maestro as always. As we said, Son Heung-min was absolutely phenomenal. Lucas Mora really shined this season. Hugo Lloris, at times was a little inconsistent, but hey, he's still a great keeper. The French shot stopper. Successful World Cup campaign, so congratulations to him. Overall, I really do have to say Mauricio Pochettino is an excellent coach. I have to give him a lot of credit. The way that he was able to shift that lineup and kind of play without Kane, we really saw the emergence from Lucas Mora, and he was able to shift that midfield, kind of play Dele Alli in the 10 spot. And, Sissoko had a really, really brilliant season. I believe he won their Player of the Year award within the team. Definitely, great season from Sissoko. He's been key in the Premier League and in Champions League. So that's been interesting. Danny Rose, Trippier, Alderweireld, and Vertonghen, that makes up their back four. They've also played with a back five before as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see. That basically breaks it down. Again, they finished 4th place on 71 points. I believe they were 1 point behind Chelsea. So, and that's based on those last 12 games. So that being said, if they had really, mustered up something a little bit more out of those last 12 games, we could be having a different discussion right now. All right, so on to Champions League.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
So UEFA Champions League. Tottenham had a really interesting group stage. It was really rocky, and you know what? I think it actually kind of is similar to Liverpool's group stage in that it really wasn't guaranteed for them until the very last game. They were at Barcelona, literally watching their away fans sit in the Camp Nou in the corner where the away fans sit, and they were watching to see their reactions because all the fans had the cell phone. And I'll go into it. Sorry. It is ridiculous. So, first of all, they start off playing Inter Milan. It was a 2-1 loss. And, really, really, really hard-fought game. It was a 2-1 loss after scoring first. So, I would say that was completely devastating. And, then they have to go and play. Then they have to go and host Barcelona at Wembley. Now, we also have to remember the thing I didn't mention in the EPL breakdown was that Tottenham was supposed to have a new stadium at the beginning of the season. They didn't get their new stadium at the beginning of the season. They were playing away all season until very, very recently. Now, that being said, they lost to Barcelona 4-2. They gave away an early goal. And just to give you a bit of a preview for when we talk about the Liverpool breakdown versus Tottenham, we're going to be talking about Tottenham not being able to give away an early goal. That cannot be in the cards for them because they're going to if they're going to concede an early goal, that's when Liverpool tends to really, really press. But we'll see. So then they play PSV Eindhoven, 2-2 draw. Now the thing is, Hugo Lloris got a red card in this match, so there was 10 men at one point, and again they get scored on early. So bringing it back to the Barcelona match and bringing it back to my warning for them against Liverpool, they really, really need to do better when they get scored on early. All right, and Liverpool are known and they are adept at attacking quickly and early. So the next thing that we see is this is a must-win game. So they play PSV again after losing after the 2-2 draw against PSV, they play PSV again in the second group stage. So in the group stage of Champions League, you play every team twice. You play them home once and away once. For all those out there who don't know. For all those there who know, appreciate you. Appreciate those who don't know listening too. We appreciate the time. So the next match against PSV is a 2-1 late win. Late win. PSV scored early again, and they were basically battling back the whole game. The next game is I believe it was the away game at the San Siro against Inter. So tough atmosphere to play in. They get a 1-0 win. An absolute brilliant goal. It's Sissoko made a huge run on the right flank, going into the box, passing to Dele Alli, who receives the ball almost. It's not in a half volley, but he brings up the ball and he makes a kind of 360 turn and pass, lay off to Christian Eriksen, who absolutely buries the shot in the top right corner. It was majestic. It was majestic. And then finally, the last match that they need to draw or win to even, if they draw, they're in the running. But then they need PSV and Inter to draw to qualify. They draw 1-1 at Barcelona. And you know what? Mora scored late. Lucas Mora scored a late goal. So it again, they almost didn't even get to be in the running to qualify. And they are sitting at the Camp Nou on the field watching their fans away in the top stands where the away fans have to be in Barcelona, and they're watching their reactions because they know all of them have cell phones, and they see the fans start going crazy, and all the players on the field are pointing up, yeah, freaking out because Inter and PSV tied 1-1, which meant that we're in the position we are now, where they went through. And so what happened in the knockout stage, they played Dortmund. They handily beat Dortmund. It was a 4-0 aggregate win, 3-0 in the first leg, 1-0 in the second leg. I mean, it's really, there's not much there tactically for me to talk about. I think Dortmund are a great team. That was one where I think once they got through that tough group with PSV, Barca, and Inter, I think Dortmund were kind of easy pickings for them. The really interesting one is actually the Ajax match, which was the semifinal, of course. But then they played Man City. Man City's a tough opponent, but their Champions League pedigree is not the best. So 1-0 win on the first leg, and then a 3-4 loss in the second leg. But again, the 1-0, I'll tell you what, Tottenham are quite a team. Tottenham are quite a team. Now, Ajax, they go down 1-0, and then, of course, the 3-2 last-second goal from Lucas Mora. Their tactics were very interesting in this game. They had to play without Sissoko. Of course, they're playing without Harry Kane. And I mean, you know, first of all, to beat City without Kane, it's quite a feat, really. I have to give it up to them. It's very impressive. Their run that they have made in the Champions League has been awesome. I have to give my hat off to Lucas Mora, scoring a hat-trick in that second leg against Ajax, and that late goal from Dele Alli playing at the 10. It's absolutely brilliant. And for me, I'll get into this more in the tactical section, of course, but bringing Fernando Llorente on in the second half was a masterful move from Mauricio Pochettino, because he is the big target man who is able to lay off his headers. And for anyone who doesn't know, that means that Tottenham can play from the back, and the goalkeeper, Hugo Lloris, who has very good distribution, can make a goal kick and pass it to a tall guy kind of right on the halfway line, and Llorente can then lay it off and pass it to a guy making a run, Lucas Mora or Dele Alli or Son or Christian Eriksen. So basically, it was a great thing having a target man. Tottenham missed that in Kane, but you know, we're gonna see, because Kane is back in the fold apparently, according to Pochettino. And you know what? This is a perfect time for us to talk about Injuries.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
So here we have our good friend, Dr. Hans Strudel Pop-Tart III. All right, Hans is our special medical advisor slash, informant, confidant, consigliere, whatever have you on the Oddcast Sports Lounge. He has all the ins and outs for Tottenham and Liverpool. He knows someone on each medical staff. So Hans is joining us today. He's going to give us the inside scoop. Hans, how's everything going? It's going solid, Hans says. We're all good. So he's going to give us the inside scoop. We're going to be talking Tottenham injuries. Now, right, there's only one we really have to talk about. There's only one, right? Is Harry Kane going to play? Is Harry Kane going to play? Hans. Hans says yes, Harry Kane is playing. Yeah, so Harry Kane's been out since April 10th. He's missed 9 matches. He went out with a ligament injury on his left ankle. Now, he hasn't played in a game since, but he returned to training. So this is all according to the club. On Monday, Kane said that he's going to be fit to play. So, and basically, ever since then, all indications have been that he will play, right? Now, that being said, Spurs got by Man City and Ajax got into the final without Kane. So, Lucas Mora, again, as I said earlier, has been phenomenal. Now, basically, it's up to Pochettino to decide. It's a risk-reward thing, right? So, as we said, I really do think that if Tottenham pick up another couple players, they make a real run at the double next year. That being said, they're in the UEFA Champions League final, so who am I to knock them winning it this year, right? But you have to risk the long-term versus the short-term. And Kane really, and I mean this because Kane has committed to this club. Time and time again, he's been targeted by the big boys of Europe. He's been targeted by Man United basically since, I don't even know. Ever since I've been aware of Harry Kane, it's been rumored that Man United really covet him. And I can see it. He is the prototypical Man United striker. Big target man, skillful with his feet. It's great in the box, but also can finish outside the box. He's the prototypical Man United striker. I really think he's going to play. I have to say, Son scored twice in the semifinal against City. Mora's hat trick in the second leg really shows that they still have firepower against great teams. I mean, Son scoring 2 goals in the second half against City. Mora scoring a hat trick against an upstart young Ajax defense really is impressive. I mean, and I have to take my hat off to all the players. I genuinely think that, they will put up a great fight and really make it challenging for their opponent, Liverpool FC, regardless of Kane's presence. Now, that being said, it has to be stated that they stand a better chance to win with Harry Kane, right? I think Harry Kane, I'll say this, Harry Kane probably is, I can't think of a better just pure front striker right now. Definitely in the Premier League, right? I mean, he's proven time and time again that he can score in a multitude of different ways. He's great with distribution. He's a very clever player. He's powerful. He's agile. He has skill. He has technicality. And, if he comes back from a really big ankle injury to face Liverpool in the final and performs well, it shows that he has grit, heart, and tenacity. And, you have to respect that. You really have to respect that. So, hats off to Harry Kane. I feel that, this sounds like something from a movie, but I don't think any team wants to win with an asterisk. I don't think Liverpool I think Liverpool would prefer to beat Tottenham at full strength. That being said, I think Tottenham would prefer to beat Liverpool at full strength. I think that's a true competitor's mentality, and I'll say it here. Every single one of us at the Oddcast would love Harry Kane to play. And seriously, if he plays, wish him nothing but the best. Seriously, and I mean that wholeheartedly. But it is a balancing act of taking the long-term potential considerations of a player's health. And look, if he's not able to do it, I do urge Mauricio Pochettino to maybe play him in the second half. Kind of do what you did with Llorente in the second leg of the Ajax match, where if it's not working with Mora up front, take Mora out, or maybe adopt a two-striker front where you play Mora back a little or play Mora up, making runs off of Harry Kane's header from the distribution from Lloris or Danny Rose or Alderweireld or Vertonghen or Trippier. So, or Eriksen, that being said. So there's a multitude of options of what can be done. We have to see how Harry Kane's going to be utilized. Does he start? Does he not play at all? Does he come on in the second half? Does he come on, midway through the second half with, 23 minutes to go? Who knows? And it's going to be really interesting, right? And again, nothing but the best for him. The other one we need to discuss is Davidson Sanchez, who is kind of a center defensive midfielder for Tottenham. He had a thigh injury. He missed the Ajax fixture. He didn't even travel with them to the Netherlands. He's apparently going to be available. It's going to be interesting. We're going to get more into the nitty-gritty of this when we get into the tactics section. But I think Sanchez could provide them an interesting center defensive midfield / fifth defender option because, perhaps to prevent that early Liverpool onset of attack, Sanchez could be kind of the stopper within the midfield, if you will, hanging back, providing those deep passes up to Harry Kane, who can drop it off, make a run, and then, or to Mora, who can then make a run, and Harry Kane can give him one of his great passes. So I think that Sanchez may be used in the game, whether he's on the bench just as a threat to use or whether he actually starts. Seriously, I think that Davidson Sanchez is going to be okay to go. He will at least be available. We'll see if Pochettino selects him for the squad. Or just the bench. Now, the final one we have to talk about is Harry Winks did have a groin I believe he had groin surgery on the 13th of April. He's played, and he's been actually a big fixture in the Tottenham side. So this is neither here nor there. Apparently, I think he's over it, but we'll see. It has to be brought up, right? It has to be brought up. This is the injury section. Dr. Hans said we had to bring it up, so. He just said that Winks is going to be okay if he needs to. He said he's going to be good to go. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the injury section. Dr. Hans, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. You got to get back to work, right? Yeah, he has to get back to work. So, guys, thanks. Appreciate you. Now we're going to get on to, here comes my favorite part, guys. The formation and tactics.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
All right, now let's talk some formation and tactics. I only have a few of these. The thing is, what drove me crazy about it is, I actually, up until fairly late on, I actually wasn't sure that Harry Kane was going to play. I'm really happy he is. I'm really happy he is. Or at the very least, I am happy that it's a legitimate question, and he says that he's available. So, whether that's a game plan, whether they're pulling the old Bill Belichick, leaving Tom Brady on the disabled list forever, we're yet to see. But I guess what I have to do is I have to say the first lineup that I really am kind of interested in seeing if they play this. This is my personal recommendation if Harry Kane is deemed healthy enough to play in the Champions League final at the Wanda Metropolitano Stadium, June 1st, Saturday, against Liverpool at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, so as you can see here, we have a bit of a 4-4-2 with the diamond in the midfield. The diamond is a little bit more widespread in this one with Son and Eriksen playing the wings. So I'm just going to give it to you from the goalkeeper. Now, when I say a 4-4-2, folks out there who don't know, what I'm talking about is the formation. Now, a 4-4-2, you always start from the defense, and then you go up to attack. So that means 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, and 2 attackers. All right, you don't ever talk about the goalkeeper in the formation. So even though there's 11 men on the pitch, or women, shout out to the 2019 Women's World Cup coming up. It's going to be awesome. Hope to give you guys some cool coverage on that. We will definitely be rooting for our women in the red, white, and blue to bring home another World Cup championship. So, hey, shout out. But the 4-4-2 with the diamond formation, this is with Harry Kane in the lineup. We have Hugo Lloris in goal, right? Then we have the 2 center backs being Vertonghen, and we have Alderweireld. I really do think these 2 are most likely going to be their center backs. I'll just say it right now. I have them as the center backs for Tottenham in almost every formation. I have Danny Rose on the left playing right there, and I have Trippier on the right, being the 2 wing backs. Now, the thing here is, we're going to get more into this when we talk about the Liverpool and Tottenham breakdown together. This is just about Tottenham. I wanted to get into the real nitty-gritty of a singular team, because what I think is you need to actually approach one team at a time, learn the tactics of the one specific team, and then you can kind of learn the specific tactics of the other team, and then you can compare them, right? So I don't know. I'm doing it in a unique way. I think it also allows me to be a bit more unbiased, because I've watched a ton of Tottenham matches, and I really do respect the way they play. That being said, I do need to say I am just really excited off top for this match. Both teams play in a really fun style. Both managers really play, as Jurgen Klopp would say, that heavy metal football. They both use the entire pitch, really imaginative, creative players. And, frankly, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All right. So, again, the back 4 in front of Lloris is going to be Vertonghen and Alderweireld at the center back, Danny Rose on the left, and Trippier on the right. Then we got Harry Winks at the center defensive midfield spot. So he's going to be anchoring the midfield in the center defensive in the back of the diamond. So when I say diamond, I mean there's going to be a center defensive midfield. You're going to have Christian Eriksen and Heung-min Son on the left. And then you have Dele Alli playing at the front of the diamond. He's going to be playing in that number 10 role, the distribution role. Now, the thing about Dele Alli is he's a really, really key player in this match. There's no way he's not starting, because Dele Alli is going to play that number 10 role, and he's going to have to key in on Liverpool's midfield, right? Liverpool's midfield is really, really darn good, and they cover a lot of area for only playing 3 people in the midfield. As we know, Liverpool are playing the 4-3-3. Firmino is healthy again, but we'll get into that in the next episode. Be sure to listen to the Liverpool breakdown, because we're going to be breaking down Liverpool just as we're breaking down Tottenham. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so again, it's Winks playing in the center defensive midfield. We got Son in the left midfield. We got Eriksen in the right midfield. Now, those guys are going to be key. Eriksen is a really interesting player. What we've seen from Eriksen is he has the ability to shift fields. He shifts the ball very quickly, and he does this very close to the goal. Now, when I say shift fields, folks, I have right here the diagram. So what he's able to do is shift from the left to the right and the right to the left based on where he is. And what that does is it allows Tottenham. Sorry. It allows Tottenham to overload on a certain side, draw Liverpool players into that side, and then a player can make a run on the other side. And because Christian Eriksen has such great distribution and such great ability to find those, lanes for his teammates, he can be really, 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 really deadly in that final third of the field. So look out for Christian Eriksen really kind of using that great distribution, especially in the final third of the field. And then finally at the front, you have Harry Kane and Lucas Mora. So this is kind of a traditional 4-4-2 formation. And again, I'm not sure if they're going to... This is the one thing that I have a bit of skepticism about Tottenham using this formation is... And I've been reading this from several other people and outlets, is that Harry Kane and Lucas Mora haven't often really paired well with each other. But the thing for me on that is I think that this is such a darn big match, and they've both been so key for their team in different ways. I think it comes down to, how they say draft the best player available in any position. I say start the best players you have. Start your best 11. And for me, I think this is the best 11 to match up with Liverpool. So this 11, again, it's a 4-4-2 with the diamond in the midfield. You got Hugo Lloris in goal. You got Danny Rose playing left back. You got Vertonghen playing left center back. You got Alderweireld playing right center back. You got right back is Kieran Trippier. You got the midfield of Winks, Son, Eriksen, and then Dele Alli in the 10 spot. And then you have Harry Kane and Lucas Moura up front. So that's my first formation breakdown. We'll see. This is a really interesting one. This is another one that features Harry Kane. Now, the reason I did this is we talked about a different variation of a potential to play 5 defenders. We've seen Tottenham do this before, and the reason that they might do this is because I think that they could use Sissoko to be an anchor kind of behind the midfield and in front of the defense. So he can often drop back and become a 5th defender, but he can also help in the midfield via distribution. I said that Davidson Sanchez has that ability too when I was talking about the injuries. I think Sissoko is an even better option to use there. He's been so industrious for the Spurs this season. Any Spurs fan would know that. The Spurs teammates love him. He's an absolute gem of a player. Now, this features the same 5 from we have what we have here is I'm calling this a 4-1-4-1. It's an odd kind of thing. I don't know if I've ever heard someone say that, but I mean it's either a 4-1-4-1 or a 5-4-1. But we have Rose, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Trippier and back again. And then we have Sissoko right here, but he can drop back, and he can also go forward. Now, you have Eriksen playing the more defensive midfield, and that's where I had Harry Winks in the last edition. Now, but I think Sissoko being back there allows Eriksen to kind of get into the angles and find those channels for the field switching passes again, right? Then you have Son on the left wing. You have Ali in the middle again playing the 10 spot. I'm firmly in belief that Dele Alli is going to play in that 10 spot. He had to do it because he had to cover De Jong in the match against Ajax. He man-marked him, and it completely changed Ajax's game plan. It threw them off. So whether it's Henderson, whether it's Gini Wijnaldum, whether it's James Milner, whether it's Fabinho, whoever Pochettino identifies as him wanting... maybe it's Firmino that he wants Dele Alli to man mark, but that would be so difficult. Dele Alli is going to have a big task, but I think he's playing in that 10 spot as well as man marking whoever Pochettino sees as the main distributor from Liverpool. Now we have Son on the left wing, as I said, Lucas on the right wing, and you have Dele Alli in the 10 spot, and then you have Kane alone up front. Now, Kane is comfortable playing alone. I actually think that's where he thrives the most. I think Kane loves to be the Atlas of the team. I think he loves to have the pressure of being the only guy up top. And I think, again, he thrives. He thrives. And he freaking loves that. And you know what? He does a great job at it. I really enjoy dropping these again and again. For all those who are listening and not watching, I have a bunch of sheets on my lap, and they just keep dropping. And it's, you know... Anyone who knows how I am knows I never get frustrated. So that's the next one. Again, it's a 5-4-1 or a 4-1-4-1, if you will. Sissoko playing the kind of pivotal defensive/offensive distributor position. Again, that's Rose, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Trippier in the back. Sissoko again playing that shifty fifth defender or, quasi midfielder defender role. We have Eriksen, Son, Ali, and Lucas in midfield, and then you have Kane leading the attack up top. All right, that's our second formation breakdown. Right, so now we're going to talk about. I really wanted to do this because look, history has to be looked at, and I know the first two are with Kane, so now we're going to make a bit of a 180, and we're going to talk about if they don't start with Kane, right? And I know I talked about this in the breakdown of the Ajax, in the brief breakdown of the Ajax. That's why I didn't want to go too much into the Champions League stuff, because I think it's really interesting to talk about the formation stuff. So what we have here is we have a 4-2-3-1. Now, this is how they lined up on paper against Ajax in the semifinals. They had a 4-2-3-1, and they had Lloris in goal. They had Rose, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Trippier at the back. They had Wanyama and Sissoko playing kind of those two defensive midfielders. And then they had the triumvirate of Son, Dele Alli, and Eriksen, with Lucas leading the attack up top. Now, in reality, and this is really interesting to me, this was only on paper. We saw basically the second the match started against Ajax in the second leg, they switched into a 4-4-2 traditional with the diamond midfield, as I was alluding to in my first formation breakdown. That's the formation I think they're going to play. So, Lloris in goal, Rose, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Trippier at the back. We had Wanyama playing defensive midfield, Sissoko playing right midfield, Ali playing at the left midfield, Christian Eriksen playing at the center. You had Lucas and Son then at top. So, the thing about it is this did not work for them. They were playing this in the first half. I think this is how they want to play, though. Clearly, it is. They lined up in the 4-2-3-1, but then they immediately shift to this 4-4-2 with the diamond formation. I think they are willing to go back to this with Harry Kane based on his availability in the lineup. Again, that's why I said that I think the potential lineup is running the same defensive backs, and then you have Winks at the defensive center defensive midfield. You have Son and Eriksen, and then you have Dele Alli playing the 10 spot. Then you have Lucas and Kane up front. I don't know. That's only if they're willing to play Kane and Lucas more together. The interesting thing about this is it was really not successful for them. And what we have to do is we have to look at what they did in the second half of that game. And the reason I say that is because I think that's why they might be willing to maybe save Harry Kane for the second half. What they did in the second half of that game is, as I stated earlier, they brought on Fernando Lauren. Now, Fernando Lauren is, he's known as kind of the big target man. And what he was able to do was kind of give those distributive headers. And he not only did that in offense, he did it in defense. I think he won like 12 out of 15 headers in the second half. It was an insane number. But he was winning all these aerial duels, which is what we call kind of the battles for the header. And he won over 10 aerial duels in the second half of the Ajax semifinal match. And what he was able to do is distribute it to Dele Alli or Eriksen or Son or Mora, making runs into the deep half of the field. Now, what I think they're going to do is not necessarily use Llorente for this. They have the option now to use Harry Kane, one of the best target men in the world. Again, Harry Kane is so versatile in how he plays that he's not just a target man, but he has to be noted as a target man just for his sheer size and willpower to get the ball. So it could be interesting to pair Llorente with Harry Kane. I don't think they're going to do that. I did this for kind of fun, paired Kane, Llorente, Ali, Sissoko, Eriksen, Son with the same back four and obviously Lloris in goal. I don't think they're going to do that. What they did there is they had Kane and Mora up top. They had Ali, Son, Eriksen, Sissoko, midfield Rose, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Trippier in back. What they could do is they could drop Kane back a little bit, have him play in the position they played, and have him distribute it forward to Ali, Mora, Eriksen, Son. Who knows? That I had to mention it just to be interesting. And then, finally, we have, since I talked about it in the Davidson Sanchez injury breakdown, I had to do a lineup for you all where we discuss if the potential for Sanchez to play. Now, I'm not going to get too into this. This is kind of a more defensive move. I don't see Pochettino as playing overly defensive. I don't see him running scared from Liverpool. The Argentinian is a strong-willed coach. I really respect him a lot. I don't think he's gonna try to park the bus against Liverpool, but I have to do this just out of respect to the listeners, just to give you guys some insight into what we think could happen, right? So you have Lloris in the back, you have Rose, Vertonghen, then you have kind of Sanchez playing a little bit above Rose and Vertonghen, where we had Sissoko playing earlier. Then you have Trippier on the right back. But then in front of Sanchez, you have Sissoko, who is another kind of, I wouldn't say he's very defensive minded. He's all over the pitch. He's a great distributor of the ball too. So then you have Sissoko, Son, Eriksen, and Ali playing again in the 10 position, and you have Harry Kane up top alone. The reason I have this is because Sanchez partnered with Vertonghen and Alderweireld, and then distributing the ball up to Sissoko, who has distribution power in his own right, could really be effective. And if Pochettino wants to go with a more defensive lineup, I think that he might go with that. Now, that being said, look, I have to give you guys a final prediction of what I think the lineup's going to be. If I were a betting man, unless Kane's injury is so bad that Poch doesn't think that he can risk it, I think they start Harry Kane. Now, I think they're going to start Lloris in goal. I think they're going to start with the back four. I think they're going to start Rose at the left back. They're going to start Vertonghen and Alderweireld at the center backs. They're going to start Trippier at the right back. I think they're going to start Winks at center defensive midfield. I think they're going to start Eriksen and Son in midfield. I think they're going to bring Sissoko in some way, shape, or fashion. I'm not willing to say exactly where they're going to put him. I have Dele Alli at the 10 spot, and I have Kane up front alone. That gives them the option to bring in Lucas Mora, who's been a spark plug for them. Now, will Lucas Mora be okay with sitting on the bench? That's the interesting factor. And, this is a perfect time for us to go into our pros and cons.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
This is why I think Tottenham is going to be fire. I'm just kidding, but I am going to leave this on. This is why I think Tottenham's going to be fire. All right? I think Tottenham's going to be fire because I think they aren't content with how they finished the Premier League season. I think that Tottenham are a team of fighters. They were able to finish fourth in what I consider the most widely competitive league in the world. Yes, I said it. I think the English Premier League is top to bottom the most competitive league in the world. All right, I have nothing but respect for La Liga, Serie A, League One, Bundesliga. The Argentinian league is absolutely quality. Look, I'm not going to count out any league. The Dutch league is phenomenal as well. There's plenty of darn good leagues out there. But I think they are absolutely fire to have finished fourth and to have made a Champions League final without Harry Kane being there for a significant amount of time. Heung-min Son didn't really get on track till November. And frankly, they didn't make any signings before this year, right? Liverpool picked up two players, $75 million center back in Virgil van Dijk and a $40-something million goalkeeper in Alisson. So it has to be said that they're absolutely fire for qualifying for the Champions League final and for finishing fourth in the Premier League. And I think they have a fire lit up under their you-know-whats because they went down in flames, no pun intended, in the ends of the Premier League. In 12 matches, to lose 7 of them, draw 3, and only win 2, that will piss any team off, and it should. Tottenham are full of professionals from the top to bottom, from the staff to the players to the head coach. I don't know about the board because you guys should have brought in some players in the offseason, but they are going to be fired up to show the world what they have. And listen, it has to be said, they came from behind and they beat a really, really good Ajax team who, you know what, after the first leg, everyone was backing them to win. I really do think they were. Everyone was saying, oh, Kane isn't there. They're on their back foot. They're against the ropes. And they won it on basically the last kick of the game, right? Lucas Mora had the hat trick. Big congratulations again for them to get here. But Tottenham is fire. I'll tell you what. That was my pros of Tottenham. The other pro I have is actually what I'm going to talk about as a con too, right? I think a pro is that no one really knows what in the heck lineup they're going to play. Really. So it's like preparing. You're facing off against, a Bill Belichick sort of figure. I think Pochettino is a bit of a Bill Belichick-esque figure. He kind of sits there in his suit and he is an absolute mastermind. And the fact is, he said that Harry Kane, he's evolving well. That's literally what he said. I don't know what the heck that means. He might play. What if he said he's going to be there in 3 fashions. One of 3 fashions. He said he's either going to be there first to play, to start, 2 to come off the bench, or 3 be there just to support his team. Well, thanks for clearing that one up, Poch. We really know a little bit more now. And I think it's actually quite brilliant, frankly. You don't know what to game plan for, so he's forcing Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool to game plan for everything. And, I think Klopp is a true professional as well and will do that, but it throws a monkey wrench in there. It really does. It's not easy to game plan for 17 different lineups because Tottenham have shown the ability to be versatile in how they line up and to be successful in almost every single one of them. And I credit Pochettino, I credit that staff, and I credit the players for being darn resilient in what was a tough season. And that's what I find fire about Tottenham. The final thing I find fire about Tottenham is, and it has to be said, they just have a bunch of ballers on their team. They really do. These guys show up week in and week out, really not being respected as a top flight team in the world and in the Premier League. And as Liverpool has kind of ascended in the more recent years to everyone kind of considering them to be a top tier team, Tottenham really have maintained that quality, and I find them to be the underdogs in this match. And look, I always am interested in an underdog that's willing to punch above their weight and make it out of a tough group stage scenario, make it out of a tough knockout stage scenario, time and time again, punch what people would consider to be above their weight, and really, not give a crap about what they're going up against, and really just playing really awesome football. So that's what I find fire about Tottenham.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
All right. We got to do it. We got to talk about the cons. Pun. Get it? Okay, no. That was stupid. All right. Well, we got to talk about the cons of Tottenham, right? I think, first of all, it needs to be said that a con needs to come back to a pro, right? I don't think they're sure, really, if they can play Kane, right? It needs to be said that a ligament injury is a serious thing. A ligament injury on an ankle is a serious thing. And it was serious enough to keep him out for 9 matches. So, we're talking about something that was fairly serious, right? And again, I know I've said this time and time again in this episode, but we're weighing short-term against long-term risk. And Harry Kane, if he, which he has, if he is considered to be staying at Tottenham for the long term, they need to really weigh that option. And even if he isn't at 100%, that's a negative that might really weigh in the back of his mind. Let's say there's a 50-50 ball. Hey, I'm not going to think that I can chase after that in the same mentality that I would if I was 100%. If there's a 50-50 ball, maybe I'm going to pull up a little quicker because I think there's a chance that I might re-injure that ankle. And then you have to understand this, right? And I'm not a world-class athlete by any stretch of the imagination. Anyone who's played sports with me can tell you that. But when you have an injury on a particular part of the body, that means that other things are going to be compensating for working a little harder because you're going to be subconsciously or consciously taking the strain off that. So his knee's going to be working harder. His calf's going to be working harder. His meniscus is going to be working harder. His thigh's going to be working harder. Quad's going to be working harder. Everything is going to be working a little harder. And as such, it puts more strain on everything else. And I cannot preach how much I do not wish there to be a injury to Harry Kane. I really do not want that. That being said, I think it's more of a pro than a con that Tottenham get to even have him available because, as I said in the beginning of the program, I wasn't really thinking he was going to be even a factor. And I'm going to take the risk, put myself out on a limb, and I think he's going to start. At the very least, I think he's going to come on in the second half, but I think he's going to start. Now, another con, again, it has to be said. It's a pro. It was a pro that I think that they were and they're fired up about how they finished the season. But I know this is Premier League versus Champions League, but Ajax is not Liverpool, right? And Man City in Champions League really isn't Liverpool in Champions League. And that's no disrespect to City. I really think they're still a quality side, and I think they will get Champions League glory at one point. Pep Guardiola is a phenomenal coach. They have a great team. Sergio Aguero, even though he's highly rated, is one of the most underrated players in the world, frankly. People really do not understand how darn good that guy is. He's an absolute magician. But I digress. And I wanna just say that I think a con is how they finished the Premier League season. I'm not sure how they feel about competing with the Premier League team in the final. That being said, would they have preferred to play Barca? Who knows? Probably they would have said no. They prefer to play Liverpool. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think it's another factor that might weigh into the back of their head. The final con is and what we're going to, I said I was going to talk about the elephant in the room, and I have to talk about the elephant in the room. I have to talk about the elephant in the room. Now, the elephant in the room is Harry Kane. But the other elephant in the room that no one's talking about, and this is the one that I really want to address, is everyone has been hypothesizing that, there's a chance that Poch is leaving to Real Madrid, and he's been tied to them for a long time. They covet the Argentinian. It's widely known that they would like to have him there. I mean, what team wouldn't like to have a absolute magician like that running their, squad? He's an absolute mastermind. He does a lot with a little. I'm not saying Tottenham have a little. That's not disrespect. But again, you're going to tell me that a team finishes 4th in the Prem and qualifies and gets to the Champions League final with signing no players prior to the season. I'm very, 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 very impressed with his ability. Again, to work without Kane, to work without Winks, to work without Sanchez, and again, to work with Son out of form, using Mora, using Eriksen. But that's the elephant in the room is, does Poch leave? I mean, if they win, there's no way he's leaving, right? Of course. There's no way. But does it weigh into their head? Does it add that extra pressure? Do they say, oh, we have to win for Poch? I think that's the elephant in the room. Real Madrid, always the elephant in the room. They're the elephant in the room always, because they're always either trying to sign one of your players or take your coach away. It's ridiculous. Like, we get it. You guys are good. You want to stay good. You like to sign a lot of players. You like to get good coaches. But what the heck is up with this? They had Zinedine Zidane win Champions League. They get rid of him. Their new coach stinks. They rehire Zinedine Zidane. We get it. You guys can get who you want. You just play, all these games. Other people They like their players. They like their coaches. Stop. Nah, I'm just kidding. I have respect for Real Madrid. Great side. Great side. Mykich the Psychic predicts that Hugo Lloris, the goalkeeper of Tottenham, must have a big game. Liverpool always create opportunities in absolute droves. They send men forward. They send men forward. They send men forward. The 4-3-3 is a tough formation to defend against, and they will have many opportunities on goal. Hugo Lloris, the French shot stopper, must be at his very best. Mykich the Psychic also predicts that Danny Rose and Kieran Trippier will have to be very, very careful in moving forward themselves, as they have to also contend with the right back and left back of Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold, the Liverpool native, and the absolute assist machine in his own right, Andrew Robertson, going forward themselves on the left and right flanks. Now, Andrew Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold have combined to get some absolutely amazing assist numbers in the Premier League this season. Andrew Robertson has tied the record for most assists by a defender in a single season of the Premier League. He sends the ball in a plethora and magnitude of ways from a absolute wave of different angles, heights, and delivery spots. He can find his players almost anywhere, and as such, Vertonghen and Alderweireld will have to be alert as they cover Firmino, Sadio Mane, Henderson, and whoever else makes runs into the box. Now, Psychic the Mykich. Now, Mykich the Psychic predicts that Harry Kane will be available. Now, it's a little bit blurry in his vision on whether he will be available to be in the starting 11, but at the very least he will come off the bench in the second half, as Fernando Lauren did in the second leg of the semi-final in the Champions League. Psychic Mykich also believes that Son Heung-min will prove to be a key offensive figure in the match. Psychic Mykich believes that Dele Alli will man-mark whoever Pochettino sees as the best distributor in the Liverpool midfield, whether they play Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho, or any other of their great distributors. Finally, Psychic the Mykich predicts that Harry Winks will be a key figure in this match. Whoa! Okay. I don't know who the heck that guy is or how he got on set or into the studio, but he's gone. I honestly, I don't know what the heck just happened. But, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate listening to the Oddcast Sports Lounge Breakdown of Tottenham Hotspur FC. We tried to make this unique for you. We tried to be unbiased. We tried to bring you some fun topics that no one's talking about. I really just want to take the time to thank you all so much for tuning in, showing support. I want to also make the announcement that we're going to be releasing the Liverpool one right after this, right? So we're basically doing back-to-back releases. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to be breaking down the two teams together, right? And then finally, on the 1st of June, Saturday at 12 p.m., we're going to be going live from the Oddcast studios to bring you live commentary of the match, right? So this is the first thing we want to really provide for you is fan commentary. We want to give you insights into stuff. We want to simplify it for people who don't really watch soccer to make it kind of fun, maybe give you a new introduction into an awesome sport. First of all, let's call it football. Give you a cool introduction into what's a great sport. And for people who watch, we know our stuff here at the Oddcast. So we're going to be bringing you live, unfettered access to really unique takes within football. So really hope you tune in. This was the Tottenham Breakdown. This is the Oddcast Sports Lounge. And, I just have to take it out with another one of Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur. Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur. Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur. And the Spurs go marching on. Tottenham is the greatest team the world has ever seen. Oh, Tottenham is the greatest team the world has ever seen. Oh, Tottenham is the greatest team the world has ever seen. And the Saints, do they go marching on? Thank you so much, folks. Love, peace, and chicken grease.
We're talking all sorts of sports. Break it down in the lounge, of course. Whether it goes down on the pitch or in the park or on the diamond or on the courts. We're talking all sorts of sports. Break it down in the lounge, of course. Whether it goes down on the pitch or in the park or on the diamond or in the courts. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge.